Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is, of course, Wednesday, April the 8th, 2026. Of course, that meaning that it's hump day for this week. Of course, as always, we're going to give people a chance to come in before we get started. If you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Oh, anyways, so got through the rest of the other half of, the latter part of, watching some of the cartoons in 1947, including, of course, um, little Lulu actually getting to be a babysitter for a little bit there. Considering that, from what I understand, she's like 6 to 8 years old. I wouldn't think she would have been, anybody would have considered having as a babysitter. But I just go to what it goes to show what I know. But then again, it was also 1947, so you know, and kids were handling a lot more responsibilities like that than they do today. So, um, because they kind of had to of the world they were living in. So, um, anyways, saw Mexican Joyride featuring Daffy Duck. Saw the first cartoon where Donald Duck and Chip and Dale were put together as well. Um, anyways, let's see. We're already at 2.5 minutes, right? Wow. All right. So we're coming up on 3 minutes here. All right, and looks like we do have a third person. So, all right. So I guess I'll start talking about what's on tap for tonight. So, got a couple articles I'm going to go over. One from Bleeding Fool and one from Founding in the Comics. Of course, the Bleeding Fool one, the one we'll do first, is from yesterday, talking about how Filbo Distribution launches comic print on demand services. Find out what that is. And then today, Bounding in the Comics, of course, had an article that I'm going to go over. I guess IDW's got some stuff they're doing as well that we'll get into as well. Plus, of course, we'll get to the wrestling wrap up, look back to last night's NXT, look ahead to tonight's AEW Dynamite. And I do believe this weekend's a couple big pay-per-views that we'll probably talk more about as we get closer to them. I think on Saturday, TNA has the Rebellion pay-per-view, and then Sunday, of course, is the Dynasty pay. So tonight's Dynamite will be the go-home Dynamite before the Sunday's Dynasty pay-per-view. And then, of course, we'll wrap things up with This Day Meets History. So, with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started then? Let me pull up the first article we're going to go over tonight here. Alrighty then, so there we go. And again, friendly reminder, of course, if you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream so we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, with that being said, let's get going here. So, Filbo Distribution launches comic print on demand services. Article by Bleeding Fool, published yesterday, April 7, 2026. So, I guess Bleeding Fool meaning that it was basically written by the staff and no specific writer is being credited with the article here. So, let's go ahead and look at what they're talking about here. So, Filbo Distribution is a comic book distributor and creator-centric logistics partner dedicated to bridging the gap between independent publishers, and global retail market. Sounds kind of similar to what RJ does. RJ Gardner from Critical Blast. And they have just announced the expansion of its distribution services to include on-site print-on-demand (POD) production. This new collaboration between distribution and printing is designed to give independent publishers and retailers access to high-quality printing with the flexibility and cost efficiency of print-on-demand. Through this venture, Filbo Distribution will offer on-site printing at offset comparable pricing, eliminating many of the common challenges of overseas production, such as shipping cost, freight delays, and late book arrival. So I guess it sounds like they're trying to basically cut out the middleman, or eliminate the middleman, as it were. Publishers will benefit from domestic production, predictable release schedules, and premium print quality without the logistical risk of international printing. All right, so before we get into this, I need to go off camera here for a quick moment. I'll be right back. I'll put some music on, though, to entertain you guys while I'm gone. And I'll be right back. Alrighty, then I'm back now. Sorry about that. Anyways, getting back to the article here, of course. Let's see. So, quote, this endeavor fundamentally changes the economics of independent publishers that will trickle down to the retailer incentives, unquote, says Philip Russert, founder of Filbo Distribution. Quote, by printing on site, we're eliminating two of the biggest obstacles creators face: shipping costs and delays. Basically, just more direct printing resources, not having to send it out to get it printed, just more direct, which in essence is kind of like, as the saying goes, cutting out the middleman. While still delivering the quality and pricing traditionally associated with large-scale offset printing. Expanded services for publishers and retailers. In addition to on-site print-on-demand production, Filbo Distribution will now offer expanded services, including retailer returns, reducing risk for comic shops, tiered retailer discounts of up to 50%, reliable release schedules regardless of print run size. Let's see. Crowdfunding, fulfillment services, convention banners, and marketing materials for creators. A printed catalog of Filbo Solicits. A new comic book news and entertainment magazine. So they're going all in here. Quote, print on demand with rates that provide healthier profit margins for publishers and create the ability to provide retailers with better incentives, unquote, Rooster added. Quote, Filbo POD, print on demand, allows us to offer professional grade printing at scale without requiring publishers to commit to large upfront print runs or international logistics. Basically, in other words, rather than having to worry about sending it out to some faraway place to get it printed and then get it sent back and go through all that rigmarole, they basically will print it on site for you, and again, cut out the middleman, cut down obviously on the time it takes in terms of the printing and the distribution and all that, all those logistics. The expanded offerings position Filbo Distribution as a more comprehensive distribution partner for independent publishers seeking flexibility, affordability, and dependable delivery to retailers, while offering terms and conditions that promote greater retailer profit margins. Basically, they're looking to cut out the middleman to increase everybody's end game, as it were, in terms of making money. It's just smart business, as it were. Okay, so this is just the beginning, said Rooster, quote unquote. Quote, we see the expansion as the foundation for a more resilient distribution model that supports growth for both retailers and publishers alike, encourages experimentation, and ensures long-term sustainability, unquote. Filbo Distribution expects the new on-site print-on-demand services to roll out in the coming months, with additional enhancements planned as demand increases. Learn more at filbodistribution.com. All right, so there we go. I think this is kind of what RJ does as well. RJ, for those of you who know RJ Carter, remember him from, of course, Critical Blast, basically. I think this is basically the line of business he's in as well. So, anyways. Alrighty then. Let me now go get the next article. Let's see. From Bounding into Comics. BIC. All right, here we go. Something I came upon earlier today as I was looking around for stories to hold on. And of course, friendly reminder as always, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Oh, here we go. Moving on to the next article here. IDW makes Godzilla a real monster again in new series. In smaller quotes, The Horror of Godzilla article by J.B. Augustine, published today. All right, so let's see what's going on here. So, at its core, Godzilla is always a cautionary tale using monsters as an allegory for the fears of a given era. Whether that's nuclear weapons, biological warfare, or the age-old fear of the unknown. A trend setting original film from 1954, directed by Ishiro Honda, voiced the fears of Japan felt as it entered the atomic age post World War II, making Gojira, in many respects, a horror film. I guess Gojira is the Japanese term for Godzilla. However, the deeper meaning and inner bleakness of the series were quickly lost and somewhat forgotten as it quickly shifted to an obsession with prehistoric and cosmic monster battles. Attempts were made again and again, starting in 1984 and recurring in this millennium with Shin Godzilla and Godzilla Minus One, to make the central creature scary again. Still, the essence of horror is mostly absent when the King of Monsters stomps across our screens. IDW might change all that in a new series coming this summer, appropriately titled The Horror of Godzilla, written by Ethan S. Parker and Griffin Sheridan, with art by Tristan Jones. The new installment in the publisher's Kaisei era, Kaisei era will retell the night of Godzilla's first rampage through Japan, which with a much darker edge. As Godzilla's official site puts it, quote, this one is going all in on frights and scares, unquote, with a very simple mandate. Quote unquote, make it frightening. Quote, the horror of Godzilla is for fans of Godzilla Minus One, Shin Godzilla, and Godzilla 54. I guess Godzilla 54 is the original Godzilla movie. It's a terrifying look at the Kaisei era's first Godzilla attack. It grabs the reader and places them on the ground in the middle of the most petrifying night in human history, the arrival of Godzilla. Through the power of Tristan Jones' visceral art style, this is the first Godzilla comic we've released that goes 100% in on horror. It very well might become the best Godzilla comic ever made. It's certainly the scariest, unquote, says IDW editor Jake Williams. Quote, Godzilla's been such a huge part of my life as far back as I can remember, unquote, said Tristan Jones, who confessed to hogging his local video store's copy of Godzilla 1985 back in the day. We're talking about Roger Corman's notorious cut of Toho's first Heisei entry, which saw the return of not only the radioactive dinosaur, but also an older Raymond Burr who wound up saddled with Dr. Pepper product placement. Raymond Burr, for those of you who who may not know who Raymond Burr is, Raymond Burr most famously portrayed Perry Mason in the eponymous courtroom drama show from back in the 50s, I believe. Jones added that he is so spirited about this project that he's, in smaller quote or in quote, genuinely hard pressed to think of anything I've been this excited about, unquote. For him, quote, it's a genuine horror and a thrill, unquote, to be on a team putting together a story that leaned harder into elements the film's teased over the years, but never quite explored to the degree he and IDW are. These elements include body horror that parallels the effects radiation and fallout had on people caught in the blast at Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Quote, set in 1954 Japan, the series revisits the night Godzilla emerged and changed history forever. But this isn't just another retelling. The creative team is exploring the horrifying human cost of Kaisei energy, showing how exposure to these grim events transforms the people caught in the chaos. Goes one synopsis. The horror of Godzilla hit shelves and digital outlets in July. All right, so there we go with that one. Let's see, what time is it now? 22 minutes. I do need to go off camera here for a quick moment. I'll be right back. But what I will do is I'll put some music on to entertain you guys while I'm gone, and then we'll get started. All right. Anyways, all right. So let's see. We're at 20. So I guess I'll take one last quick look around the bend here, as it were. See if there's anything else. Probably. Hmm. La 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 la. Alrighty then. So it looks like there's not. So I guess we'll just get ready to move on to the wrestling wrap up then, because we do have things to talk about from that regard, and there's been a little bit more clarification as to what's going on, why it's possible that Io Sky, after coming out of WrestleMania last year as women's world champion, why this year she might not even be on the WrestleMania card. So what's going on here? What's been going on? Apparently, um, as there has been talk about the possibility that Io and Asuka will be facing each other at WrestleMania, but they're kind of putting that even though they said that the card as it stands is finalized and they are not on the card. The part of the reason being is because right now, one of the matches that's coming up at WrestleMania on the weekend of the 18th and 19th, a week from week from this weekend. There's that 4-way women's tag team title match in which the Irresistible Forces of Nia Jax and Lash Legend will be defending against the teams of Bayley and Lyra Valkyria, Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, and the Bella Twins, bringing Nikki Bella. However, Nikki Bella has been kind of currently nursing an injury, and they're not sure as of yet she's going to be cleared by WrestleMania. If she's not, they're considering putting Asuka and Kairi Sane, the Kabuki Warriors, in that match to fill in for, rather than just simply making it a 3-way or putting in another team. So that's why the whole, Asuka Io match, there's in talk of, if it's not going to be at Wrestle. Now, if Nikki is cleared, they might decide to throw the Asuka Io match in there as well. But there's also been talk that they're going to, rather than doing it at WrestleMania itself, they will, maybe have that on maybe the Raw before, the go home Raw before WrestleMania, like next week basically. So, but that's some news heading into WrestleMania now. Looking back to last night's NXT, of course, on last night's NXT, the show opened up, of course, with Tony D'Angelo who, as we noted, had become the first ever NXT Grand Slam champion. You know, doing a promo at the beginning of the show talking about his championship win, and then of course his 4 opponents came out to confront him. Basically told him he beat them all up and what have you, and then the 4 of them, of course, were attacked by the members of Dark State, which led to the signing for the end of the night of an 8-man tag featuring Tony D'Angelo, Joe Hendry, Ethan Page, and Ricky Saints taking on members of Dark State, with, of course, Tony D'Angelo's team getting the win. But, however, Ethan Page getting the actual pinfall, hitting the Twisted Grin, his version of basically the swing cutter, onto one of the members of Dark State. So, but anyways, that was later in the show. But and then the first match of the evening actually saw Izzy Dane of the Culling, with, of course, Sean Spears and Nico Vance in her corner, getting the win against Sol Ruca. Sol Ruca coming off of her win against Zarya, only for Zarya to try to get some revenge by interfering in this match and costing Sol Ruca the win here by spearing her on the outside of the ring, helping Izzy Dane to hit the sit-out powerbomb to get the finish there. I think she calls her version of it the Dane time. Then in a triple threat match that was set up last week's NXT, Keanu Carver defeated Jasper Troy and Josh Briggs in 13 minutes 2 seconds, hitting the pounce on Josh Briggs and getting the pin on him there. Then, as I said, in the 8-man tag match that I just previously mentioned, Tony D'Angelo, Joe Hendry, Ethan Page, and Ricky Saints defeated Dark State, with, of course, Ethan Page getting the pinfall on one of the members of Dark State. I believe it was Saquon Sugars, hitting him with the Twisted Grin, his version of the swinging cutter. In a semifinal match for the WWE Speed title, with this being the NXT debut of Chaz Starboy Hall, who recently became the new Evolve champion, actually ID champion, I believe. Lexus King of the Birthright, with, of course, Ariana Grace, Channing Lorenzo, Charlie Dempsey, and Uriah Connors in his corner, defeated Chaz Hall to advance in the tournament to see who would next challenge for the Speed Championship, which is currently held by Elio LaFleur, hitting Chaz Knight with the coronation in 2 minutes 6 seconds. And then in a mixed tag team match, Blake Monroe and Jackson Drake of the Vanity Project, with of course Brad Baylor and Ricky Smokes in his corner, defeated the team of Shiloh Hill and Tatum Paxley to become to win the match there. That's all that happened on last night's. That's all that happened on last night's NXT. So now let's go ahead and talk about tonight's Dynamite. As tonight's Dynamite will be, of course, the Go Home Dynamite. Nothing that will. Tonight will be, of course, the Go Home Dynamite. Heading into this weekend's Dynasty, and I guess we'll also talk a little bit about the updated card for Dynasty. So tonight's Dynamite, which will be held at Rogers Place in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Of course, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. The birthplace of course, the late Chris Benoit, among other things. So the matches that are signed for tonight, for tonight's show, in a casino gauntlet and a match to see who will get the number one spot in the casino gauntlet. Tommaso Ciampa will be taking on Mascara Dorada. In a six-man tag match, Bandito teams with Darby Allin, Ring of Honor World Champion Bandito teams with Darby Allin and AEW National Champion Jack Perry. They take on the Don Callis family members of Andrade El Idolo, Mark Davis, and New Japan Pro Wrestling World Television Champion Konosuke Takeshita. Originally, Brody King was supposed to be part of this match, but was pulled from the show for some unknown reasons. Bandito is taking his place. And also tonight, Willow Nightingale will be defending the TBS title against the returning Queen Aminata, who's been out of action for a while. So that, and we'll, of course, have a lot of build up towards Dynasty coming up this Sunday, I believe, the 12th. So let's take a quick peek at at the card. So AEW Dynasty will be taking place at the Rogers Arena in Vancouver, British. So they got a Rogers Place in Edmonton and a Rogers Arena in Vancouver. That's funny. So coming up at Rogers Arena, of course, there'll be a casino gauntlet match. Okay. Apparently, there's going to be a casino gauntlet match for the AEW TNT title. That's interesting because last I knew, let's check something here. Something must have happened with Kyle Fletcher because he was the most recent champion here. It was vacated today. I guess Kyle Fletcher must have got injured or something like that because I didn't even know it was. Apparently, though, they're going to have a gauntlet match to see who will be the new AEW TNT champion. So don't know what that's all about. I hadn't even heard anything in regards to that, so that was kind of interesting. So let's get back. So they'll have the gauntlet match for the TNT title this Sunday. Also set up for this, or not this Sunday, but yeah, actually it is this Sunday, the 12th. Let's see. Tekla will defend in a match that was pretty much set up last week. Tekla defends the AEW Women's World title against Jamie Hayter. These two, of course, have had some history. They both, while they were both over in Japan wrestling for Stardom, they both held the SWA World Championship each on one occasion. Andrade El Idolo is set to take on Darby Allin. If Darby Allin can defeat Andrade, he will get a shot at MJF. If MJF happens to be world champion, he'll get basically the next shot at the AEW World title. in a match for the AEW Continental. Originally, this was a non-title match, but now Will Ospreay was able to goad Moxley into making it a title match. Jon Moxley will be defending the AEW Continental title against Will Ospreay. And as per the rules of these title matches, of course, there can be no seconds at ringside. The combatants come out on their own, wrestle on their own. Nobody's at ringside to interfere. And Ospreay was able to goad Moxley into making this a title match. For the AEW World Tag Team titles, FTR, Dax Harwood, and Cash Wheeler with Stokely in their corner will defend the titles against Cage and Cope, Christian Cage and Adam Copeland. Everybody remembers their multiple time runs as WWE Tag Team Champions as Edge and Christian. Now they look to add an AEW World Tag title to their resume. And the main event will see MJF defend the AEW World title against Kenny Omega. So there you go. So that's the card for Sunday. I'm sure when I see the highlights tonight, when I see the highlights for Dynamite tonight, I'll find out what happened with the TNT title and why it was vacated. Also, as per most pay-per-views, there is going to be a pre-show that will be on YouTube. See if they've scheduled any matches for that yet. One match is scheduled for the pre-show. Alex Windsor, the other half of the Brawling Birds, taking on Marina Shafir of the Death Riders. So, that's all we got for the wrestling wrap-up. So now, what we can do here is, with today being Wednesday, April the 8th, 2026, let's take a look back at this day in Niche history. History! They did it to me again, didn't they? And I do kind of mentally remember what the... Yeah, there you go. All right. 1946, 1986, 1956, and 2011. All right. So with all that being said, let's take a look back at this day in each history. First off, I'm going to head back 80 years ago. As on this date, 80 years ago today, back in 1946, the first issue of Cosmo Cat went on sale on this date back in 1946, sold for 10 cents, 32 pages from Fox Feature Syndicate. The series ran for like 14 issues, but on this date, back in 1946, 80 years ago, looked like it was a bi-monthly or every other month book. So the first issue of Cosmo Cat went on sale on this date back in 1946. All right, so with that being said, of course, Now, of course, moving on to the next piece of news history, and I'd like to actually wish a happy 70th birthday to actress Diane Michelle. Now, for those of you who, of course, who grew up or were watching cartoons in the 90s and 2000s, her voice should be somewhat familiar to you, as Diane Michelle provided the voices of Lashina in 4 of the episodes of Superman the Anime series, as well as Candace in 3 episodes of Batman the Animated series. She was Candace in Batman. Candace was was basically one of Rupert Thorne's secretary, basically, and Lashina, of course, was one of the female Furies. Darkseid's female Furies. She also provided the voice of Daisy Duck in Mickey Mouse Works and Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas, Lila in Barbie of Swan Lake, Jane Jetson in Harvey Burt. She provided the voice of Jane Jetson in Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, Back to the Future, Back to the Present, rather. So, happy 70th birthday to Diane Michelle. All right. So, with that as well, moving on to the next piece in each history, we move ahead to the year 1986, which was 40 years ago today. On this date, 40 years ago today, in 1986, in Memphis, Tennessee, Jerry Lawler defeated Bill Dundee to win the AWA Southern Heavyweight title, a title that was basically contested for in the Continental Wrestling Association, the CWA, in Memphis, as the CWA had been an affiliate of AWA since 1977. So Jerry Lawler defeated Bill Dundee to become the new AWA Southern Heavyweight Champion. Now, of course, Jerry Lawler in total won that title, I think something like 28 times or so. So, yeah. So, anyways, Jerry Lawler defeated Bill Dundee to become the AWA on this date 40 years ago in 1986. And now, moving on to the year 2011, 15 years ago today. On this date, 15 years ago today, in the year 2011, the following anime premiered on Japanese television on this date back in 2011. Studio Gokumi's A Channel, Brains Base's Ghastly Prince Enma Burning Up, Shaft's Maria Holic Alive, Zebek's Softanini the Animation, and Hinsemi, and Production IG's You're Being Summoned Azazel. So once again, the following anime premiered on this date back in 2011, 15 years ago today. Studio Gokumi's A Channel, Brains Base's Ghastly Prince Enma Burning Up, Shaft's Maria Holic Alive, Zebek's Softanini the Animation, and Hinsemi, and Production IG's You're Being Summoned Azazel. All right, so with that being said, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody, of course, enjoyed the show. We'll be back here with more Niche News tomorrow, of course. And don't forget, this Sunday, I'll be joined by the Metal from the Vomitorium, as we'll be taking another trip down Comics History Lane. This week, we'll be looking back to comics that went on sale from August of 1940 from Fiction House. We'll be reading such features as Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, Red Comet, Phantoma, and Simba, the King of Beast. So with that, I thank you all for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.